You know, I've often said the greatest conservationists in the world are hunters. The #1 animal in all of North America that are in trouble today, mule deer. I want to make sure that we're preserving those rights and we're protecting those animals for our future generations so that my great-great-grandchildren get the same opportunity in hunting as I had. So we're going to look back over the last 11 seasons. We're going to show you some of the greatest epic mule deer footage that we've ever been able to capture here on Western Extreme. Well, I shot my very first mule deer when I was 14 years old, and when that arrow left the string, I was absolutely hooked. And ever since then, I've just had something about being able to just go one-on-one with a big old mature buck with a bow in hand and just have him so close that you can hear him breathe. The Western Extreme team every year looks forward to targeting the whitetails and the mule deer out here in Alberta, Canada. And so every year I am there on opening day to grab the bow and go after what I believe some of the largest mule deer in the world. And this resource is just in check.
I've been hunting deer since I was 14 years old and started guiding when I was 18, and I started my own outfitting business here back in 2006 and been running big time adventures ever since. It's not a hobby of mine, it's a passion, and it's my job, and I love to do it and take care of clients and try and get them to accomplish their goals and dreams.
Now, Blake has been a really good friend for a really long time, and the one thing you learn about him is that he loves big deer. All you need to do is look at his Facebook page and realize that he's taken live wild whitetails at over 200 inches. Big mule deer bucks up into the 230s. This is one of those special places on earth. Team Western Extreme really believes that the largest deer on earth come from Alberta, Canada.
This place has just had some absolute giants, and over the years we've seen some big bucks like this one. This buck right here was way over 200 inches. Over the past 5 years, I've seen a couple of them that would be really close. These are extraordinary deer, and what's really amazing is, can you imagine a deer that's only 3 or 4 years old? He's not even in his prime yet, and he's over 200 inches. And these are just some of the deer that we're seeing out here in Alberta, Canada. Have you ever seen what a 240-inch mule deer buck looks like? It was right on the border between British Columbia and Alberta, Canada. An absolute monster. Unfortunately, it was out of the zone that we can physically hunt, but we got to spend some good time, and day after day after day, we were able to watch this magnificent deer. Now, this giant deer is a really special one. In fact, one of my friends, Rick Stewart, got a chance to be able to hunt him. Now, Rick has not spent a lot of time behind the bow, and he wanted to be able to take this deer ethically. And so many times he was within 40 yards and just didn't feel comfortable with the shot. And unfortunately, this big deer got away from us. Now, he lived through the winter, and most likely we're going to be back hunting him next year.
One of my favorite things to do is to grab a pair of binoculars and start glassing way before the sun has added to the landscape to see if I can find those early morning bucks and kind of get a head start on the day. It's just a special time to be afield. It's one of those things that God gave us that just magical. It's never duplicated. One of the most enjoyable things about the hunt here in Alberta is the scouting process, because all of the bucks are in their summering mode, and it's really about vittles. Because their antlers are still in velvet, they really do lay around, not in the timber, but out into the fields. This allows you to cover a lot of ground, use your binoculars, you're looking for bedded bucks, glassing off into those little swells, looking for horn tips that are just above the crop line. Now, many of them are all bachelored up, so you'll see groups of like 5, 6, 7. And so our goal is to go out and really look hard to try to find a deer, you know, that's well over 180 inches. Over the years, I've been able to see some giants. I know that I've seen some deer that are over 220 inches, 230 inches, and I know that I've seen probably 50 bucks that are over 200 over the course of time. Now, unfortunately, Team Western Extreme only ever has a few days to hunt with Blake, but if you concentrated and you were there in a really good year, it's unlikely for you to be able to legitimately stalk and see a deer that's over 200 inches. Man, we're in Alberta, Canada. Doesn't get any better than this.
You know, over the years, I've learned a lot about mule deer hunting. And one of the questions I get asked a lot on Facebook, how do you get so close to those deer? And there is a regimen to it. What I wear, what I put on my feet, how I moved, I use the wind. I make sure that the thermals have actually shifted, and most of that thermal's coming up. I always approach them from the top. I don't approach under 40 yards, and this is why. A mule deer buck is laying there with his elbows covering his vitals. And I try to position myself where I can get around. And what you'll watch is I wait until the mule deer buck gets up. I don't throw a rock over him. I don't try to whistle at him. I don't try to talk. I've made all those mistakes over the course of the years. I just wait until the mule deer buck stands up. So I get in position, I get to my 40-yard mark, and then I watch his antlers. And when I see his antlers dip down, and then his butt will come up, and then he'll lift his front shoulders up. And once I watch that head dip, I draw my bow and I wait for the perfect opportunity, placing the pin in the spot before I pull the trigger. Now, if you approach under 40 yards, if you broke that 40-yard barrier, many times that buck will jump from his bed, run out like a whitetail at 80 yards, turn around and look at you. At 40, he'll just stand up and go, "What's that?" And then by then, the arrow's already in flight. So here's just another tip that you can do when you're hunting mule deer in open country.
This is it. This is when you focus. You pull the adrenaline that you feel in your heart and pay attention to every move that you're making, getting closer and closer and closer. And then there's that time where you just feel like this deer could jump from his bed at any given time and bolt. Every time I step through the canola, it's one step closer. Being closer, it's more of an opportunity for that deer to hear me. So I wait for little gusts of wind to be able to muffle my sounds. Over a long period of time, I have learned a lot. I've made a lot of failed stalks. I try to take those failures and wonder what I did wrong, and then try to make myself a better hunter. And so one of the things that I find that I do is when I'm making the final approach and I'm getting really, really close, I start to speed up. The time that I should be slowing down, my anticipation, my adrenaline is making me rush myself. And so I have to calm myself down, take a deep breath, and just focus. And this is the time that we're waiting for. It's the time where I get to be close to that deer, that I'm making that final approach, that we're connected at another level, that I have outwitted his scent, the sound, and the sight in order to get close enough. Using a rangefinder can be really difficult out here in the canola, and trying to target the top of a buck's antlers is really difficult. So you've really got to take your time, make sure that you have a really good range and that you're confident that you got the right reading back into the rangefinder. And once you're there and you put that release on the string, now it's about calming down, preparing yourself, paying attention to where those antlers are positioned, and then it's just a waiting game. When I watched those antlers tip down and I started to see that back end come up, I drew the bow, and now it's all about micro aiming, picking an exact spot and letting that arrow fly.
Here we go. Yep, that's it, dude. That's it. Western Extreme is in Alberta, Canada with big time. Oh man.
Congrats. Nice deer.
Shoot. Thanks a lot, buddy. Look at that, you guys. What an absolutely spectacular mule deer buck. Here we are, guys, with an absolutely amazing, beautiful, big, typical mule deer bucks, and one that's definitely in the 170s. And spectacular deer. This is my 11th year, guys. If you see me at an outfitter more than once, you know that their resource is in check. And it's a really special place on earth. There are lots and lots of mule deer, some of the largest whitetail in the world, huge populations of elk, and Blake has in fact shot the state record for Alberta, Canada with black bears. And so I've been on black bear hunting, I've done whitetail hunting, I've done elk hunting, and the mule deer I just cannot stay away from. I want to thank you guys. Great camera work, by the way. Great camera work.
2 bucks in 2 days.
Yeah.